Hello and welcome to the Overland Journal Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Giordano, and today I am with two very special guests, Josh and Vanessa from Destined for Wild.
Yes.
Yay!
Yeah.
So I'm really excited because we're in my hometown today recording this podcast, and you guys just happen to be from beautiful British Columbia, Canada as well.
Yes.
It's always fun to chat with some Canadians about overlanding the world.
Yes.
It's funny because our house is actually 30 minutes from your house,
Yeah.
which is very weird.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super fun though to chat with you guys about that because I don't really get a chance to talk to Canadians that often about
That's very fair.
overlanding.
We only met, honestly,
A handful of Canadians on our
I think
trip.
less than that. I think 2 or 3.
Yeah, not very many.
Not very many at
Yeah.
all. So
Nice.
It's kind of nice when you can.
I know. So tell us a little bit about the trip. You just got back a few months ago
Yes.
from a big trip.
Yeah.
So tell us where you went and what vehicle did you take?
So we just finished the Pan American Highway. So we started off in BC, Canada, and went south. We finished probably I think about 2 months ago, but we drove our
Totally back.
1994 80 Series Land Cruiser.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Love the 90s Toyota.
Yes.
They're always the best.
Yeah.
Awesome. So how did you decide that you wanted to do this Pan American trip?
Well,
Take it away.
honestly, I followed you guys on Instagram when you did it.
Sorry.
And I was like, this is really cool. So I started to want to do it after you guys had finished. And then I had been thinking about it for years. And then Vanessa and I got together.
Yeah.
And I'd always talked about us just doing this trip. And we had talked about someday let's do this, someday let's do this. And we kind of just hit a point where like, when is someday? So we just kind of figured we were young and healthy. Or we are young and healthy. And why not just kind of go?
Yeah.
So we just kind of did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things we had thought about for a really long time, but the only thing holding us back was really us. And then,
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't want to wait until like we're old and retired and don't want to sit in a car for like hours on end each day driving. So we're like, why don't we do it now when we don't have kids or a house or anything like that that's
Yeah.
holding us back? So we're like, let's just go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because most people always say they'll wait till their retirement to go actually start living life and do stuff. But we kind of have like, life isn't promised, never guaranteed tomorrow, so why not go and just live life now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
What were the things that you had to put in order to be able to go in terms of preparation?
So there was quite a bit. So we had talked about this, like I said, for quite a while, but we didn't really have a date on when we were going to go or how we were going to do it or any of that.
Yeah, we were talking about for like the last like probably like 5-ish years seriously about doing it.
Yeah, and then at the time we had like a Mitsubishi Delica, and had kind of talked about, oh, this is like perfect, this is great, and then after realizing just how complicated it was to fix things, with it being a right-hand drive,
And being a Japanese import
and being
van.
imported, we were just kind of like, you know what, this is just a lot of extra complications with getting parts, getting it fixed, right-hand drive as well.
Because right-hand drive, you can't get into Nicaragua.
Nicaragua,
and
Costa Rica, and someone told me apparently Panama.
I think Panama has some rules with it too. I don't know if it's as strict as Costa Rica and
Yeah.
Nicaragua, but yeah, you can't enter the border with a right-hand drive.
So they'll just be
Right.
blocked. So basically, after finding that out, we were like, okay, shoot, we need to figure something else out.
Yeah.
So we had thrown around the idea a lot of what we were wanting to take, and we had seen basically people have done it in literally everything at this point. So we
Yeah.
were kind of like, how crazy do we go with this? Because it's more important to actually travel than have like the perfect vehicle to do it in.
Whatever the perfect vehicle is,
Exactly.
that mythical creature.
Exactly, because again, I'm sure like you guys know, we've met people who've done it in like a Honda Civic and people who've done it in multi-million-dollar rigs, and all of them have things they like and don't like about their vehicle.
100%. Yeah.
So you can you don't need to have anything special. You can really just take whatever and go for it.
Yeah, whatever works for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just trying to figure out, okay, what are we doing? How are we doing this? The logistics of it. How much would this cost? How long we could actually take to do this?
Yeah.
Basically, like, it's like subletting our house out. Our job's allowing us to go do this.
Yeah.
Getting a vehicle to actually go and do this, because at the time we didn't really have a good car to actually challenge for something like
we
this.
said no to taking the van, so we're back to the drawing board trying to look for something, and we had all the ideas like, what about a pickup with a camper on the back, or what about a van or something like that. So we researched for a long time.
I spent way too much time researching this.
Yeah.
I looked into vans, trucks, SUVs, small cars, different builds you could do on everything, and kind of just got honestly really overwhelmed, and I was like, well, what's perfect? And then kind of hit a point where we're like, it doesn't need to be perfect.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, well, what are things that were important to us? And I wanted things to be reliable. I wanted it to be easy to get parts for and easy to fix. And I wanted it to be comfortable, and I didn't want it to be like super big and flashy where it would cause a lot of attention.
And is able to go where we want to go to.
And yes, and be capable of going everywhere that we wanted to be able to go, so the vehicle would never hold us back.
Yeah.
So kind of just started looking around things, looking at the drawing board, and kind of figured Toyota checked a lot of those boxes. So we figured Toyota, didn't really know what we were wanting with that. And then we went from, I think at the time I actually owned an old Tacoma, but there's some issues with that. Looked into 4Runners, bought a 4Runner, got rid of the 4Runner.
It was in very good shape.
The dream had always been Land Cruiser, because it's always been my dream vehicle, but it seemed kind of unattainable.
They're so hard to find in Canada, especially in BC, and they're always way overpriced.
And ones that aren't right-hand drive, because a lot of the ones in Canada are JDM.
Yeah.
So had been looking around for a while and just kind of had that one off because I didn't think it was attainable. And then one came up for sale in Kelowna, and we were like, oh, let's go check this out. So took a couple days, drove out and went and looked at it, got inspected, and kind of just figured why not give it a shot, pull the trigger on it, and here we are now.
Well, we also landed on this specific Land Cruiser because we were also inspired by another couple that did this trip, Dirt Sunrise.
Yeah,
Tim and Kelsey. We loved Goose.
Yeah, because they had theirs was a 95, I believe, but it had a Camp Tech conversion.
Yeah.
And after seeing that, I really liked the idea of that, and simply the fact that you could have like the camper built into the vehicle, so you wouldn't have to get in and out.
Yes.
And it was still lower profile. It was relatively simple, but it was funny because I think on through one of the forums or something, I had saw that they were no longer making them.
Oh yeah, Camp Techs? Yeah.
Or they said the Camp Tech conversion. So
I
was kind of like, shoot, how's this going to work? Like, how do we find this? I had looked around trying to find used ones. Couldn't really figure it out. And I did the crazy thing of emailing the company.
Yeah, he reached out to the owner of Camp Tech.
And they are still making them.
Yeah.
But he had just stopped for a couple of years, and then people just took that as like, that's the truth, and just ran with that.
Right.
So called him, and he's like, no, I can definitely do that for you guys. So we drove down to Colorado and bought the roof, got the roof installed.
Yeah.
And then basically just built the truck up from there. So we basically bought the truck completely stock and slowly built it into our little house on wheels.
Yeah.
I guess that's the thing, is you get overwhelmed because there are all these options and all of these choices, and any of them could potentially work, but it's like, is this the right choice for you? And also, is it available? Like you were saying, Land Cruisers are really, they're not that easy to find here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're almost like, I kind of think of this as trying to buy clothes sometimes.
For sure.
If you're into flipping through magazines, looking at clothes, you're like, this seems like the perfect jacket or whatever. But then you go to the store and you can actually find that jacket in your size. So you have to actually find something that's in your size that fits well. It's going to do what you need, and it looks good.
Yeah. This the way you want it to fit.
Yeah.
This
exactly
has to be right in all of these ways.
Yeah. Right.
And that's the thing as well. Like, I feel this is kind of silly. It might just be me, but I feel everyone's gotten into a vehicle at some point that doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
You're like, I just don't have enough room. A big thing for me is cup holders.
Oh, the cup holders are
Josh
very
loves
important.
Having lots of cup holders for his many drinks.
Especially in Toyotas, you have to have the proper size cup holder.
They don't come with cup holders.
Yeah.
That was the one design flaw of Toyotas. I will say I'm standing by that, but you can add them. And I think now we have 6.
Something like that.
We have 6 or 8 cup holders in our truck.
It's insane.
And it's just the best. So you can always add them.
Yeah. So
but just finding what fits you well and works for the purpose that you're wanting. Because like a big thing for me is always, not even just for like an overland vehicle, but just always have a vehicle that can allow you to live the life that you want to live. Whether it's just if you're just driving to and from work, or if you're going to ski hills, or if you like to go off-roading or whatever. Just I never want my vehicle to hold me back from doing what I want to do. So we kind of figured like, well, this checks pretty much every box, so why not try it out?
What were the boxes for you? Did you want it to be able to take you on more technical trails, or did you want it to be able to take you to be camping somewhere comfortably, or what were the requirements for the vehicle that you wanted?
That's where it was kind of tricky, because like I'll say broadly yes to all those questions.
Yeah, we're not huge technical trail off-roaders though, but like we like to be able to do it though.
But we didn't know what we wanted it to be able to do.
Yeah.
But we didn't want it to hold us back, because we had no idea what to expect.
Right.
So I wanted to be able to basically get anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah.
So our truck, it's only center locked. It's not triple locked like some 80s are. And honestly, I thought that was perfectly fine. Before we left, I was like, man, I have to get out of lockers. We have to do this. It needs to be able to get anywhere.
Lock.
It's totally okay without it. We did
were
perfectly
fine without it, yeah.
But we wanted to be able to like have what we wanted to be able to sleep comfortably. We wanted basically to have everything that we needed just with us.
Yeah.
And not overthink it. So like our build was like very simple. Like we didn't have like internal water tanks. We didn't have hot water. We didn't have
A bathroom.
really like no bathroom. We didn't really have like any like luxuries, I'll say.
Yeah.
But it was kind of funny is when we were leaving, a lot of people were like, oh, how will you get by without having a bathroom or a shower or running water or whatever? And it honestly wasn't that bad
We
at
made
all.
it work.
Like we made it work the entire time. We never really had any problems trying to find anything.
We might have smelt that a lot more than
we
we
didn't
should
shower
have,
very
but
But we basically just wanted the vehicle to be able to carry what we wanted, get to where we wanted, and be able to do what we wanted. And the biggest thing was I just wanted reliability, because I just didn't want to break down in the middle of somewhere and not be able to fix it.
Yeah.
So like a big requirement for me is like I looked up what vehicles are basically everywhere in the world. What vehicles can you get parts for everywhere in the world? What are some of the most reliable vehicles ever made? And what are some of the most durable vehicles ever made? And basically like a quote that I heard that I liked was, what does United Nations, the Taliban, and the diamond mines in Africa have in common? Is that they all drive Land Cruisers.
Right.
Because they don't break.
Yeah.
So I took that as a pretty good indication that's a good idea. So we kind of just went with it. We knew nothing about Land Cruisers before buying it.
Yeah.
And just kind of figured we'd figure it out. And I definitely know way more than I need to know about them at this point.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. In terms of the vehicle, how did it end up performing? Because you said reliability, you could get parts everywhere, and that was the intent behind the vehicle choice.
Yeah.
When you actually hit the road, did that ring true?
It did for the most part. So there was a few things that definitely could have been better. We only had one major breakdown on our entire trip, which very thankful for.
And it was like right at the beginning, like we were in Mexico when it happened.
I think we weren't even 2 weeks into our trip.
Yeah, we're like, oh no, it's over, we're done.
This is where I still don't know why this happened, because I changed everything before we left. But one of our U-joints exploded on the freeway at going like 120 kilometers an hour, and then the drive shaft basically just punched a hole through the floor of the truck. It punched a huge dent in the frame. It cracked our transmission bell housing. And broke a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
So we basically lost all of our transmission fluid on the side of the highway, and it just sucked. But we were able to get it patched in Mexico, surprisingly, with JB Weld.
Yep.
Which was surprising that worked the entire time.
Yeah, JB Weld held on the whole trip too.
The one thing that was ironic as well, in this one little section of Mexico where we broke down, apparently that's the one area that doesn't have Land Cruisers.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ironically, there was not parts for us.
No. So we got helped out a ton. Like the shop that we went to, they knew a guy in like a city over that had some parts. We had people like on Instagram and stuff reaching out that were going to like create us a transmission, all this stuff.
Which is so nice.
A lot of people just reached out, were willing to help.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they were able to kind of patch the transmission and just make it work, and it held the entire trip. Like we literally didn't lose any fluid the entire time, which was shocking.
Very shocking.
So we're gonna change it now that we're home.
Yeah, we'll fix it properly now.
Very surprised at that. Other than that, like we went through brakes and like normal wear and tear parts.
But I think that's because we overlooked how heavy our interior build was. So that definitely made us go through brakes more and probably did a lot more stress on the vehicle itself.
Definitely. We didn't think very much about how heavy our truck was and then how much weight we added to our truck.
Yeah.
Right.
So we definitely were pushing that line quite a bit. So we went through brakes faster than most. So that's something that we're upgrading and changing now.
And we're lightening our truck.
And we're lightening our truck because that was, besides the transmission and the brakes, the only other thing we had to do is like we had to get our power steering pump rebuilt. We had to have our starter rebuilt, and part of our frame cracked around where our steering box was. That's apparently a really common problem with 80 series. So we got that fixed, but other than that, it did fantastic. It's awful on gas.
Oh yeah, huge gas guzzler.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was pretty crazy on fuel. But we did our entire trip and honestly never really had anything that was a major concern besides that one breakdown, and just trusted it the entire time and it would fully do it again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just kept going. It was great.
So it did fantastic up until, actually now that I'm thinking, up until the end of our trip. Probably the last month we were on the road, it started burning a lot of oil.
Yeah.
Struggling a bit. It was okay while we were kind of finishing up the trip, but getting it back to Canada, it was hurting by the time we got home.
Yeah.
So that was fun though.
Yeah.
But fully trusted it would do it again for sure.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, it does by the end get a bit worn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys were gone for 9 months,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, it's a lot daily use. You're living out of the vehicle and driving road conditions you wouldn't normally be driving on the way to work or from work.
Definitely.
Yep.
So
Rough
yeah, that
roads
makes
for sure.
sense.
Basically threw everything at it at once.
Yeah, exactly. So when you broke down that day, you were in Mexico and it was getting dark and you had to pull over on the side of the road and Vanessa was sick at the time.
Yeah, I got food poisoning. I don't know how I got food poisoning, but I did.
Yeah, basically
bad timing.
that could have gone wrong that day did go wrong.
Yeah.
When we first started our trip, we're like, okay, like we don't have to be anywhere at any time. This is gonna be fine. And one of our friends was like, oh yeah, we'll come meet you guys in Mexico. I'm like, oh cool, that will be great. And then we had started, they told us where they had booked their tickets to, and it was the complete bottom end of Mexico. Like, oh yeah, we'll be there in 2 weeks. And
this always happens every time. We're
yeah.
always talking to travelers and, you know, the joy and the wonderful, you know, thank you so much for coming to visit, or you're so grateful to have family or friends that come in. But it's always somewhere super far away. And, you know, you're pushing the schedule and long driving days to be able to make it.
Exactly.
It's always figures into the equation.
So that's exactly what happened, is we just felt like we were like in a huge rush immediately.
Oh yeah, it was like blasted through like Mexico.
Like blasting through Mexico. And like little things that were like, oh, like could we stop to like maybe deal with this? Like literally when the U-joint exploded, I remember thinking, I was like, oh, okay, next town I'll stop and look to see what that noise is.
Yeah, we started hearing a noise and we're like, oh, that's fine.
Then it exploded and it was too late.
Yeah.
But it was just very chaotic, because like we broke down at probably 11 o'clock in the morning. So pulled over to the side of the highway, got it off into like the corner a little bit, and then called a mechanic, there's a program in Mexico called Green Angels.
Yeah, it's like a tourism helpline kind of thing.
Yeah, so we got told to call them, so we called them, and they're like, yep, we'll send a mechanic to you, don't worry about it, like, somebody will be there in like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool, this is great.
Where in Mexico was this?
This was roughly...
It was like 20 minutes outside of Guadalajara.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because initially we were going down the coast, we were planning on doing the coast the whole way.
Yeah.
That time of the year was when all that like heavy stuff was going on with cartel stuff. So they had actually had a roadblock and blocked off the coastal highway.
Yeah.
Right.
So we had to go back and around and go up around Mexico City.
Yeah.
So that's why we were near Guadalajara when we broke down. So where it got funny is we called this guy. He said, oh yeah, we're sending somebody, don't worry about it. Blah, 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 blah. Like, hour goes by, there's still nothing. We're sitting there. Vanessa's still sick. She's going to like get sick in the bathroom, or not in the bathroom.
Beside the highway in the bushes.
In the bushes. Like every 15 minutes. Then a random guy just walks up to us. This is in the middle of nowhere. And starts like asking what's going on.
Yeah.
So like I'm talking to him, like he has broken English, I have very broken Spanish. We're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I'm asking him like, oh, are you part of like Green Angels, whatever? And he just kept saying no. So I was like, oh, okay. And then he calls, he's I'll call a buddy, talking to his friend. His friend spoke English. And he's, oh yeah, I can be there in like 10 minutes to tow you. And I was like, oh, like we have a tow truck coming already. Like it's okay. Like someone's coming.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay. That guy just walks away and leaves.
Yeah.
This is probably about noon. Fast forward now, it's probably 9 o'clock at night. There's still nobody.
Yeah.
We've tried to call multiple times, but the call keeps getting, like they'll answer and then they just hung up right away.
Yeah, we kept trying to recall Green Angels to see what's going on, and then they kept hanging up on us. I don't know why.
Or it was going to like a different number or something. I don't know.
It was very weird.
And it was hectic. I watched your video, your YouTube video on this, and it's not like you're you're not like pulled over in this nice quiet area. You're on the side of a highway and there are all these trucks, going by and it's getting dark.
Oh yeah, there was like at some points there was like inches between us and cars off the highway. It was not fun.
Yeah.
And where it got silly though is then probably about like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, we get a phone call and it's from the guy we had talked to at 11 in the morning from the Green Angels company.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, like you haven't gotten picked up?
Oh no.
And we're like, no. He's, oh yeah, we sent somebody. He told us that you sent them away.
And we're like, he didn't tell us
like,
he was with you.
Tell us that we were with you. Like we asked if he was a part of your company. He said no. And so he was like, oh yeah, okay, we'll send somebody else. So again, we're like, okay. And then 10 o'clock at night, a guy shows up in a pickup truck with a chain and looked at me first and said, I don't understand why you can't drive. And then I was like, there's a hole in our transmission. Then he looked and was like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense. But towed us down the highway with a chain. It's pitch black out, and the way he would tell us to go faster or slow down was he would put his hand up or down on the freeway in the dark. So you couldn't see anything, and that's just how he would tell us what we needed to do. So he towed us 20 minutes back to wherever his shop was, and then basically was just like, oh yeah, like just leave your car here, leave your keys here. We're like, well, where are we? He's like, oh yeah, just leave it, it's fine. So we're like, okay, well, we have all of our stuff in this truck at this point.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay. So basically threw the stuff in the back of his truck, left our truck in this random parking lot, and then he drove us to a random hotel where they took us in.
Yeah.
And
they're really nice people though.
Brought us in, like hosted us we were there, ended up being there for like about a week.
Yeah.
They had a restaurant they just let us eat at and like put us on a tab.
Yeah.
And just like made sure everything was taken care of, which was incredible.
Wow.
So that was awesome.
It was like so cheap for staying there for the whole week and eating too. Like
I think it was like $75 Canadian.
Yeah, it was
for
insane.
a week at this hotel.
Wow.
So it was insane.
Yeah.
And then Vanessa was able to feel better.
Yeah, I actually could recover and
I was gonna say it was probably such a relief for you to be able with food poisoning to have a place to
just
lay down or throw up.
Do what you need to do. Yeah. It's not pretty.
It was funny as well though because there's the language barriers with the mechanic because we kept asking like, oh, how are things going? Like what's going on? But then he wouldn't reply. Yeah. Or he'd say, oh yeah, I'll come pick you up in 10 minutes. Yeah. But would then come like 5 hours later. Yeah. So it was just kind of funny because we're like, all right, this is something. We'll see what happens. And we still didn't even know if we were going to be able to continue our trip. We thought we were done at that point. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, again, a lot of uncertainty because we didn't know what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah, how did you cope with that? Because I think a lot of times in our daily life, like you guys were working, you're working as a graphic designer and you're working as a barber beforehand. And I'm assuming that your life is kind of structured to a point, and things like this don't happen in your day-to-day life. So all of a sudden you're thrown into this situation where everything is up in the air. You don't know if your trip's gonna continue. Like how did you deal with that, or how did you just go with it? Or
it was kind of nice in a sense because I feel like because it happened and obviously like threw such a wrench into the mix, it definitely disrupted like kind of like our daily normal routine to be like, all right, this is how it's going to be. We're not going to know what's going to happen. Yeah. So we just kind of have to go with it. Mm-hmm. And that was nice because normally I'm very like routine with everything I do. So it's nice to be like, well, we'll see what happens. We could leave today. We could leave tomorrow. We might not leave. I don't know. Yeah. So we just kind of rolled with it, which was nice.
I was personally just delusionally optimistic. I'm like, it's going to get fixed. We're going to go meet Josh's parents because his parents were also visiting us and, along with our friends in the same town in southern Mexico. I was like, we're going to get there in time and see everybody. It's going to be fine. And I just kept telling myself that.
So we're just like, well, we'll just see, like, we'll say we're still going and we'll see what happens. Yeah. And we got our truck back and we're like, okay, we have a lot of ground to cover, not a lot of time to see these people. Yeah. And it was funny because they were in Huatulco, Mexico, and we got there the day our friends were leaving.
We just met them in time.
We met them at the beach and then drove them to the airport, and that was our time we spent with them. We had maybe an hour and a half.
We would have had like a week with them there if we didn't break down.
Exactly. So it ended up working out, and it was fine, but we're like, all right, this is kind of how it has to be for a little bit. Yeah. So again, it's kind of nice to throw us into the deep end a little bit to be like, okay, we don't know what's going on. We have to just figure things out, and we'll just have to problem solve, and that's part of this trip.
Yeah. Yeah, it sets the tone probably for the rest of the trip.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. It's funny, Vanessa made fun of me a lot, and a lot of people we met traveling because I got into a habit of, I joked that it was like my 75-point inspection, where every morning I'd wake up and I'd look at everything.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not going to do this and then have something else break.
Yeah, well, it could be an expensive mistake if you don't double check everything.
But then anytime we stopped to either get food, gas, anything, I would check all of the fluids.
Yeah, you would.
Every morning I would check over everything, and every night I would check over everything. So I was basically just always checking everything because I didn't want it to break. But nothing else major broke the rest of the trip, so I'm not mad about it.
Yeah.
So
That's a good practice.
Yeah.
It was definitely way over the top, but it was I'm not mad about it.
Yeah.
It's helpful.
Being proactive.
Exactly.
Yeah, helps a lot.
Yeah.
Exactly. Definitely helps
Your future
prevent
self
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
says thank you very much.
Yes.
Exactly. That was the thing, is I felt like when our truck did break, I was like, this was definitely preventable. I could have done something about this. So I was like, I'm living and learning from that experience, and I'm not doing that now.
Yeah.
So it worked out.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there were lots of lessons learned, which I think is just something that goes hand in hand with your first big overland trip, or even a small overland trip.
Yeah.
You know, the first time you go out and you're pushing yourself a little bit and you're learning things. So you're learning about the heavy interior
Yeah.
and you're learning about doing those checks every morning.
Yeah.
Is there anything else, and it doesn't have to be vehicle related, that you learned on this trip that would change things for you moving forward?
What do you think?
I have to think for a second.
A big thing for, I'd say, us as a couple was our communication got a lot better.
Yeah, you spend a lot of time together, so either you get better as a couple or you get worse. Thankfully, we got better.
Yeah.
But,
I joked that our truck, I believe it was 48 square feet,
Yeah.
not including the pop top.
Yeah.
So it's funny, as I was talking to a friend about this as well, is like when you spend that much time with somebody in like your farthest distance is arm reach, you learn how to talk really well.
Yeah.
Because little problems can become big problems. So it's nice just to be like, oh, hey, this is what I'm thinking right now. Because a lot of the time, for me personally, I'd overthink everything, where I was like, oh no, like Vanessa's mad at me.
I
It's
was
like,
just
she
chilling.
wasn't. She's just chilling.
Yeah.
And I was like,
It's like, I'm fine. Why are you freaking
exactly.
out? Yeah.
Just read into everything.
Yeah.
So communication got very good for us as a couple, which was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And definitely learning how to take care of our bodies properly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because living in a car and, well, again, a lot of times like you just get food. It was side of the road or gas stations or whatever, and we're like, I just don't feel good. You need to take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice to kind of be aware of that, and especially with a big trip like that, you're sitting a lot. So knowing to be like, okay, I need to be active. I need to do things.
Yeah.
Because definitely if you just sit there and just eat junk food for the entire time, you're not going to be feeling very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes those things take a little while because I think there's so much that you're processing, and you know that eating healthy makes you feel better, or you know that you are driving a lot and so you need some movement and some exercise as well, but all these little things are being put into place over time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think, and you also want to be experimental. You want to try certain foods, and you want to embrace where you are.
Exactly.
But balancing it out, it's really important.
Yeah.
But how did you introduce more activities, or
so
cook more for yourself, or how did you?
We
do that?
actually didn't eat out a ton.
No, we didn't eat out very much at all. We made
Actually,
almost everything.
one big joke, we have one of the couples we made the closest connection with on this trip. They make the joke that, it was better, nothing beats the Baja fish tacos, because we didn't have them when we were in Baja.
So
we were being too cheap. We're like, we can't afford to eat anything else. We're just going to make everything.
Yeah.
So there's
We
like, you
missed
went
that.
to Baja and you didn't have the fish tacos. So that was this one joke they always had, was
we
nothing
didn't
beats the
have
Baja
fish tacos because we just made all of our food. It's like, oh no, we're on a budget. So
Next time.
next time like
we'll go
realizing
back.
like, oh, we planned and saved for this. We can buy food. That's okay.
So you have a balance for
Yeah.
sure. Like, be aware of how much you're spending, but also like make room for fun. Like, I'm glad that we relaxed a little bit after that and being like, oh, we can go eat out, or we can do this activity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because that was the thing, is we loosened up a lot to be like, okay, we can afford to do things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like just relaxing to be like, okay, it's okay to slow down. It's okay to do stuff.
Yeah, we felt rushed all the time. Like,
Yeah.
because we were like, oh, we have this short timeline to do all of this trip. And we ended up extending our trip because we're like, there's no way we can do this in 6 months. And even doing it in 9 months is not enough time, which we wish we would have done it longer too. But we had jobs and stuff to come back home to, so we had to cut it short. But
And that's honestly, that's where kind of breaking down was kind of nice. It kind of like reminded us like it's okay to slow down.
yeah, definitely.
Again, back home, I find like we live like a very fast-paced life of just constantly moving. So it's nice to be like, oh, we don't need to do this. Like, you can just, if you only go for a little bit right now, that's okay. And it's okay not to be in a rush everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's just nice to actually slow down and be like, okay, you can just appreciate where you are right now. Just enjoy that.
Yeah.
So you've been back for a few months now, and I'm curious how the adjustment process has been. This is something I've talked with a lot of travelers about.
Yeah.
Just like reverse culture shock, or
Definitely.
I feel like I kind of felt drunk for, like I wasn't, but I felt
It's like
weird.
what's happening.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
100%.
Toothpaste aisle, you're like, why are there so many there's so many toothpaste options and little things like that. What are some things that you've noticed since you've been back home?
One of the things that was funny is I remember this is probably the first 2 or 3 days that we were home, and we were driving with my parents somewhere, and they had just paved a new road. And my mom was talking about how, like, oh man, this road was awful beforehand. You have no idea what this road was like. I literally just looked at her, I was like, I'm sorry, you can't really talk to me about this right now. I was like,
have you seen topes?
I was like, we've seen like insane roads. And she's like, oh, yeah, okay, maybe it wasn't that bad. It's like, no, it probably wasn't that bad. It's a paved road in Canada.
Yeah.
It's
actually really nice.
It's very much fun. So that was kind of funny. And just like, a thing that was weird as well is coming back and realizing like how much we've got done and experienced, and just being like, oh wow, so much life still happened while we were doing this as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is a weird one, but coming back in, like, we have nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
And like when we left, like they were still like babies.
Well, your youngest niece was literally like 3 months old when we left. Yeah.
And then so like we came back and I'm like, you're a little person.
Like she celebrated her first birthday like a month after we got home. It was so weird.
So it's weird to be like, you can stand up and you can do stuff where before you could barely open your eyes.
Yeah.
So that was weird, and even just coming back and being like, oh wow, I just did all of this, but this is kind of a funny one, but like realizing that nobody else realizes you just did this, because obviously you're not just like, you don't have a banner that says, hey, I just did this.
Yeah, like no one knows that you just did this incredible journey, and like they're just doing their thing, and you're like, cool.
I remember it was even funny when we got to Ushuaia, to like the final point where it's like the photo op that everybody does.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we got there and we pulled in, and it was like, wow, this big accomplishment. And right when he pulled in, like 5 tour buses pulled in behind us. So we were kind of like having a little bit of a moment, just kind of like standing there looking at the sign, and like people came like kind of like pushed us out of the way so they could get a photo by the sign. And we were standing there, and I was like, we just drove here, and like no one really even understands that. And I was just kind of like, huh, that's kind of neat that like this is such a small detail. But like no one is aware that this was just 9 months of our life to get to this one point. Where they drove like 45 minutes.
Right.
So it was just kind of funny to be like, oh man, that's such a weird thing, because that was such a big thing for us, obviously. But for other people, it's like, oh, you probably don't even really think about this.
Right.
So it's just kind of funny in that sense.
Mm-hmm. One little thing for me that was kind of like a thing I was so excited about, I'm never excited about, is washing dishes in a sink with running water that's hot.
Oh.
Because we had a tiny little collapsible bin that I'd wash dishes in, and almost always the water was cold. And like, I'm not even cleaning these properly, but whatever. We're camping all the time. But yeah, I was so excited to wash dishes in our sink at home. I'm like, this is so weird that this tiny little simple thing that most people like hate doing, I'm like, I love this. I get to do this now.
We had the same experience. And our family members were like, it's okay, you can put them in the dishwasher. They're like, no. Why would I do that when I have hot water and soap and...
I still have a hard time not wearing the same clothes every day.
Oh, same. I went like a few days without like washing my hair, and I remember your mom commented on it, and I was like, oh yeah, I can wash my hair more often. I can do that. I can shower more.
I have more than 3 shirts. I can wear a different shirt.
Right.
And I still wear the same clothes whenever I'm doing anything on the cars, because I still have not learned that I'm supposed to change into work clothes.
Right.
So
it's very funny.
That's not going to change.
I think overall it just made us more grateful for all the awesome things we have at our disposal living in Canada. So
like running water, hot water, a toilet.
Just like infrastructure, just like all the stuff. Like, we're just really grateful for it all.
It's like simple little things. Like even this one was kind of funny as well. But after Vanessa got sick in Mexico, I was like, oh, then we'll find you like an electrolyte powder.
Oh yeah.
That doesn't exist.
You could not find them anywhere.
Because we literally looked in every country. I think we found it once in maybe Peru.
Like you could get like Pedialyte, like the
you could get
bottles.
Pedialyte, but you couldn't get like Gatorade powder mix or whatever. So it's kind of funny because we're like, this is just a thing I've never thought of being a luxury, but I guess other places don't have this.
This is not common.
So it's like little things like that, even like being able to drink the water.
Yeah.
Like, it's still weird where like, because obviously in Canada, like you can drink tap water. But the amount of times where I'm like, oh, I need to get filled this, but I'm like, oh yeah, I can just do that. I don't need to like seek out a water source that's safe.
Yes.
That's kind of funny still. I'm still having a hard time with that.
Yeah.
So it's just like little things I've gotten, like you got so accustomed to that are not normal in all over the world.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a weird feeling.
Yeah.
But yeah, really grateful, I'm sure too.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It is nice. That feeling that you're like, oh, I can have a shower
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
whenever I want. It's
Yeah.
weird.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
you feel, the showers are so infrequent sometimes
Yeah.
Yeah.
that, or like a proper toilet can be
Yeah.
hit or miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, going home. I'm experiencing that right now too.
Oh, for
Yeah,
sure.
Coming
totally.
back from Spain as well. I'm like, wait,
Mhm.
I can just wash my hair
Oh yeah.
like
Yeah.
whenever.
Yeah.
It's funny as well because the thing that I've realized since getting home is I shower way faster now.
Oh,
yeah.
Because like I'll just get in, I'm like, okay, yeah, like minute and a half, everything's done. So I'm like, all right, we have hot water that lasts longer than a minute and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good. We're saving on our water bill though. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Guess it's a good thing then, yeah.
But it's just
For
kind of funny.
sure.
I just realized that the other day where I was like, I'm way faster at this than I used to be. So I'm like having a process now.
Yes.
So kind of funny in that sense, just the little things.
And the value of water.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you think about,
Yes,
You think
definitely.
about like every drop now. You're like, oh no, I'm not just leaving the tap on now because you're like, well, for the last year, we're like, we have 20 liters of water until we can find more water. So we have to save every ounce of this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was fun to get used to in the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Was saving the water. We wanted to get one of those like the misting bottles.
Oh,
for
yeah.
burns. Yeah. They're
Nice.
the best. We met somebody who had that in Panama and we're like, this is going to save us so much.
Yeah, because use it to wash dishes. It's
Yeah.
great.
That was a big thing. Dishes and toothbrushes.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. And when it's hot, you can
Yeah,
mix
it's a little
yourself if you
versatile.
want to.
Mhm.
Were there any hacks that you picked up besides the spray bottle on the road, or do you
Ooh.
think?
There's a few. So, well, one was a pee bottle.
Yeah, it's like unspoken thing that everyone has.
Yeah.
Overlanding,
there's
I
Yeah.
guess.
a bottle that you just pee into.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still use that at home.
He does, and I'm like, you don't need to do that anymore.
But I'm
we
not
have a
stopping.
toilet.
One that we learned because we didn't have like air conditioning or anything. We just had a fan.
Yeah.
So one tip that we learned, where if you're in a very hot climate and you don't have like airflow or whatever, is if you take just like a top sheet and you miss a top sheet down so it's slightly damp, and then have a fan on you, it cools the top of the sheet and therefore cools you.
Yeah.
So you want to wear as little as possible. So basically just like underwear, naked if you can, and it basically just slightly cools you,
Yeah.
but not to the point where you're freezing. But even if there's just like a slight wind at all, it cools it enough. So that was a big
Nice.
one. We used that a lot when we were in
Panama and at Overland
Costa Rica.
Embassy, we use that too.
Yeah, Costa Rica and Panama. It was they had like a heat dome where it was the hottest it had been in like 30 years. So it was a lot.
It was hot. Yeah.
So that helped an insane amount. So that was very nice.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of what else.
I actually don't know. I'm sure there's more. They're just not coming to my head right now.
Those are the immediate ones from the head that I remember.
They
Those are
stood out.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, those are the immediate ones for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
So coming back to Canada, what would you say that you would want Canadians to know about this trip and the people you met along the way or what you saw?
Ooh, that's a
I'd-
good one.
I would say like, because everyone always, especially like when people talk about Mexico, they're like, oh, that's so dangerous. Like you're driving through Mexico. Like people, there's a lot more good people out there than people assume, and like what you hear from the media, whatever. Like we didn't run into any trouble with people on our trip. Like we were very lucky to not have been robbed or anything like that. But like
Even
everyone
most
was
of the people we
so,
met.
yeah, everyone was so kind, and they, like other overlanders we met too were in the same boat as us. But like everyone was so kind. The locals always were just like, they're just curious. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're from Canada. What's this? But with the language barrier, a lot of time, it's like, we drove here from Canada, and that's all I could say.
Like,
Yeah.
a quote that I forget where I heard this, but I really liked it. And I found once we kind of started to like realize this and like live like this, it helped a lot. Was only 1% of the world is truly evil, 99% of the world is actually kind.
Yeah.
And when you view everyone that you come in contact with as being truly kind, you let down a lot of walls. And when you have your walls down, other people let their walls down.
Yeah.
Because most people don't actually want to harm you or anything.
Yeah.
even a lot of time when things happen, it's because people are in rough situations, but they're not actually truly evil people.
Yeah.
So when you kind of start to like view it like that helped a ton.
Yeah.
As well as a big one that I realized was in like when we were in Mexico and like when we broke down, that was when like a lot of like heavy cartel stuff was going on. There was, I think it was El Chapo's son was arrested or something.
Yeah, it was all happening in Sinaloa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I remember when we were in Baja, we met a couple there, and they're like, "Oh, do not go to mainland Mexico. Like that's the stupidest thing you could ever do." And we were like leaving on the ferry the next day, and we're like, "Oh, well, okay."
We're going anyways.
And I remember I had like clients and friends like all sending us articles on stuff that was going on. And we were like, "Oh man, like this is going to be a lot." Where it was funny is when we left and we're in mainland Mexico, if you didn't tell us something was happening, we would have had no idea.
Yeah.
And it really made us realize where it's like, oh, the stuff that you see posted is way more than what you think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even it was funny because that was what we initially noticed, and then nearing the end of our trip, there's a lot of wildfires back like in our hometown, and it was kind of funny because I remember seeing like on Instagram and articles and whatever like how bad these fires were. I remember like calling my parents and calling the guys I work with, like, "Oh, are you guys okay? Like, how bad is it?" They're like, "We're fine. Like, yeah, there's some fires, but like they're not that close to us."
Yeah.
Right.
So just being like, oh, well, from like stuff on like Instagram and online, it looks like all of BC is just a ball of flames.
Yeah.
Well, there's some, but it's not that close.
Yeah.
Yes.
So being like, oh, okay, maybe that's not exactly what it seems. So the stuff that you hear might not always be exactly what it is.
Yeah.
For
always
sure.
think of it a little bit more.
Yeah.
I remember living in Vancouver, and I think it was after a hockey game or something. This is so Canadian. Oh my goodness, it's actually ridiculous. But I think there were riots,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
and we lived right downtown at that time, and it looked like the entire city was on fire from all the
yes. It
pictures
looked
and
really
stuff that I
bad,
saw.
yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember, there's a famous photo of this girl like laying in the street and some guy kissing her or something
Yes,
like that.
I know
Yeah.
what you're talking
Anyway,
about.
so yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's one of my
you know,
favorite
it was
photos ever taken.
it was one street,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it looked like the entire
Yeah, it looked like
city
all of
was
Vancouver was just a
Exactly.
riot.
just a mess.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah,
And
that's
it's
an
just-
important lesson to learn. I think
yeah.
it's a pretty common one in if you've traveled anywhere really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's different than you think it's going to be or you've heard.
Yeah, and just like use common sense if you are scared of
Yeah.
running into trouble or stuff like that. Like, just
Exactly.
don't go into the sketchy dark alleyway at night.
Like, trust your gut.
Yeah, trust your
saying,
gut.
Like, don't like something doesn't feel right. Trust that. It's not a big deal just to leave and go somewhere else.
Yeah, we've done that. We were like,
yeah.
nah, this campsite doesn't seem right. We're gonna go find somewhere else to
Mm-hmm.
park.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, like the point like you just said as well as I think that like I realized as well, people would hear something like, oh, this is happening in, well, I'll just say Mexico. So like, oh, like Mexico's all super dangerous. This is happening in like Sinaloa. Like, do you know how big Mexico
Yeah,
is?
it's a big country.
huge.
Yeah.
It's like it'd be
Huge.
like, comparable to like in Canada. It's, oh, this is happening in Toronto. You're like, I live on the West Coast. Like,
Yeah.
it'd take me a week to get there, or like opposite ends of the U.S. Like,
Yeah.
really doesn't affect me because I'm very far from that.
Yeah.
But people just hear it like, oh, so it's all of it then.
Yeah.
But that's not in reality what it is.
Generalization.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like countries are bigger than just one town.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point. I know you guys are back home now, but what would you want to tell the people that you had met about Canada?
Ooh.
Oh man.
I know it's so hard. Somebody
Yeah.
asked me this recently,
Yeah.
and I literally I couldn't think of anything, so I thought this would be a perfect question.
That's really funny. I feel like everyone has a good idea of Canada already that we met.
Maybe it's
But
something
not
they don't
really,
know, or yeah, it could be a misconception or something
Okay,
that I don't know. It could be something that's close to your heart
Yeah.
about Canada that you want to share with other people. It could be that too.
There's less snow overall than what people think. We
Yeah,
have,
it gets pretty hot where we live.
like in the summer,
does.
like it gets like into like the high 30s.
Yeah,
or
this
like 100
region-
degrees
this region that
Fahrenheit.
we're in,
Yeah.
like, yeah, like 100 degrees Fahrenheit isn't uncommon.
Yeah.
Correct.
And yes, in the winter, like we still get a lot of snow, but we have seasons. So
It's
we have
not
like
just
winter,
winter.
summer, fall.
We don't live in igloos.
Spring?
We've been asked that before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we don't
same.
live in igloos.
Yeah.
Not everybody in Canada plays hockey.
Yeah.
There are Tim Hortons everywhere.
Tim Hortons is everywhere, and it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not great, but it's not bad.
Canadian cuisine isn't really a big thing. There's poutine and
Yeah, Nanaimo bars.
Nanaimo bars. Those were the big things we would tell people
Butter
about.
tarts.
Butter tarts.
Yeah, there's more of a global kind of food scene here, I would say, than
Yeah.
some very specific,
Yeah.
Exactly.
generalized
Yeah.
kind of Canadian cuisine.
Exactly.
I had to Google what was like Canadian
Yeah,
food?
'cause
Because
people
one of our
kept asking
friends asked
us,
us on the
like, I
trip,
don't
yeah.
know.
And I was like, I actually don't know. I don't think it was poutine, but
Yeah.
what
There's like,
else?
what's a Canadian dish? We're like, I don't really know what's a Canadian dish.
I think split pea soup or something like that was a Canadian thing on the list. I was like, I didn't know that.
What?
Okay. Something like
I
that.
didn't know that
Is
either.
it like lobster on the East Coast, I
Yeah.
guess? Or, yeah.
Like, I'll say as well, like, Canada is way bigger than you'd expect. And a lot of the things that people know about Canada are essentially the coast. Like, people have heard of Vancouver and they've heard of Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, both very beautiful cities, but there's a lot besides just those. Like,
Yeah.
we're about like 6 hours from Vancouver and people have no idea where that is.
Yeah.
And it's like gorgeous. Like, we live in like wine country. There's lakes everywhere.
You could go skiing in the winter.
Biking in the summer.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very like outdoor active community, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like people again like they have that misconception of like Canada's always winter,
Yeah.
where it's only winter for part of the year,
Yeah.
and it's way bigger and there's way more like wild land than what people think.
True.
Like I
Yeah.
feel that's even like honestly like being from Canada, I feel like I often forget that, or I'm like, all right, there's a lot of trees here, and it goes on for a very long way.
It does.
Because even I was talking to somebody the other day about like Prince George, BC.
Yes.
And people are like, oh yeah, that's northern BC. But if you look at the map, that's like kind of the middle.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more above that.
Yep.
But people forget how big Canada is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even somewhere like BC, I think it's almost the distance of driving BC to Alaska, or like from the US border to Alaska through BC, that's almost the same distance as driving across Canada.
I think it's like driving from BC to Toronto or something
Yeah.
like that. Like it's
And people don't
Wow.
realize it's that big.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because like you look at it on a map and you're like, oh, like that's pretty small. But maps aren't accurate in their sizing.
Sure.
So it's
Yeah.
way bigger than what people expect it is.
I
There's a lot
think
more to
that
see.
we calculated like the distance between I might be getting this wrong. I swear it was Montana to Tuktoyaktuk.
Yeah.
I believe, and it was the same distance from was it Montana to Mexico City?
Oh
Something like
wow.
that.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's there's a lot of north,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of north.
a lot of north.
Even I remember, this was one that surprised me. Is I didn't realize how big Mexico was when we left.
Yeah.
Because I remember we got our oil changed in California. And I was okay, we should be good for a while. And we weren't even like out of Mexico before I had to do it again.
Yeah, we were like
this
in.
was way bigger than I was
think we were
expecting.
like
Yeah.
in Tulum when you did that.
I think so.
Yeah.
That was again where we were like, oh cool, this is a very big country and we now have a very little time to get through all of this.
Yeah. So we'll come back.
So we're definitely gonna go do Mexico again.
Yeah.
Mexico's a bit fast.
Yeah. It was way too fast. Yeah.
Do you have any plans? Future plans, dreams, upcoming trips? Are you gonna stay home for a bit and?
Probably work for a bit, but there's definitely dreams and some plans.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll say yes to kind of all of those.
Yeah.
So we need to work for a little bit now.
Yeah.
Paco, our truck is hurting a little bit.
Yeah. Need some work.
So I'm going to swap the engine and the transmission this winter. And then our plan is to finish the Pan Am and drive up to northern Alaska and up to Tuk.
Yeah.
So we'll see how fixing everything goes on the truck because there's quite a lot that needs to be done. I need to change a lot.
Did some damage.
So we're going to do that. And then we started talking about potentially shipping the truck somewhere else. So,
Or a different vehicle. We don't know.
Or potentially a different vehicle. We're not really sure.
Yeah.
So we've talked about shipping it maybe over to Europe or to Africa and then going around there.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of see. There's a few things that are kind of in the talk or in the works, but we'll see what we end up landing on. But there is plans to definitely travel more after this.
Yeah.
So this trip obviously got its claws in you, and
Oh,
you're
yes.
eager to go back out.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely when we left, we're like, oh yeah, this is like all we'll do, and then we'll be fine.
Yeah, we're like,
no.
oh, one and done. That's it. And like, nope, I want to go back. I miss it.
Yeah, like honestly, before we were even like halfway done with our trip, we're like, oh yeah, we could definitely do this longer. Like
Yeah.
we can go other places.
Yeah.
So we like to go through Asia. I really want to go travel through Africa.
Yeah.
Europe was also very cool. But there's a lot of the world to see.
What are some of the things that you miss from the road?
Ooh.
I miss like the people we met. Like
Yeah.
it's just so like organic all the times. Like, oh, you pull up to the same camp spot that you found an Overlander, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, like where are you from? Like, where are you
Yeah.
driving to? And it's really cool just making connections with all these people.
I love the simplicity as well.
Yeah.
Whereas just there's nothing, because again, like I said, like our build was very simple. So I like that there wasn't a ton you had to think about. And I
Yeah.
like that all of our possessions were just there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice to be, oh, we're going to go do this. Like, okay, well, this is here, this is there.
Yeah.
And basically, like, all of our belongings are in arm reach,
Yeah.
which is nice. And just realizing truly how little we need to be happy.
Definitely, and like everything that is happening in the moment is all we really need to worry about. Because like when we're back home, we think of like, oh, this is happening in like a few months. We have to plan for this or whatever, like all this stuff going on at once. But when you're on the road, it's just like, oh, we only have to worry about what
like
we're doing today and maybe tomorrow what we're doing. But like you don't think too hard.
Where you're gonna sleep,
where you're gonna
what
sleep,
you're gonna eat, and what you're gonna do.
Oh, exactly.
And maybe where you're gonna get fuel or water or
Exactly.
a shower.
It doesn't go beyond
occasionally.
that though, which is so nice.
Exactly, and I love the fact that it's just like, oh no, we can just go.
Yeah.
And we'll just see. It's like, oh, look, well, we'll see until we see food, and we'll just go there.
Yeah.
You should probably find water soon.
Yeah.
Like, I just liked the idea that you just didn't really have to think that much.
Yeah.
It is kind of a radical way to live right in these times because everything is so fast and
Exactly.
complex. There's so much going on. There's so much stimulation.
Yeah.
You're always thinking about all the little things.
Exactly.
So it's really refreshing to have that change in simplicity, isn't it?
Definitely.
It
Yeah.
was nice as well just to kind of just realize that, like a question that I got asked a lot when we got home was, oh, what did you miss the most from like having it home? I was like, nothing really. Like we had everything we needed.
Yeah.
And like, cause we had people be like, oh man, it must have like been awful not having a shower, not having a bathroom, or not having TV or Wi-Fi or
Just
whatever.
kind of embrace being a dirtbag and you're fine. Yeah.
It was like, I know both Vanessa and I would agree, we're like dirtbags to our core, so we're like
I don't
this
care.
is kind of just nice that we can be like this.
Yeah.
It was just kind of funny because, again, realized like we really don't need that much.
Yeah.
And even when we got home, we're like, oh, we can get rid of a lot of stuff. We don't need any of this.
Ooh, that's the best.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We purged so much when we got
yeah.
home. I still want to purge more stuff.
Oh, yeah. We're still purging through stuff.
Yeah.
We just did that recently also. Went to our storage locker.
Yeah.
Don't need this, don't need this, don't need this, don't need this, don't need this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It felt amazing
Exactly.
to get rid
Totally.
of some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because that was even where it was funny is, because I found like living in the truck as well, people were like, oh man, you probably have like, you use everything. But there's so many things when like, basically our entire trip was like, we can get rid of this. We don't need this. We
Yeah,
don't
we're
need
like,
this.
didn't even touch this whole trip.
Oh, yeah.
What are
We
some
thought we
things
needed.
what did you get rid of
Oof.
that you didn't
Sorry, from the
use
truck or from our house?
from the truck, like when you started out?
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure.
Oh man, I'm trying to remember now because I'm not mad about this, but we had like way overbuilt our electrical system.
Yeah.
So it's like we need to be prepared for everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we had way more than what we needed.
Yeah.
So that was totally fine, but definitely could have gone simpler on that. We definitely could have simplified a lot of things
Yeah.
because there's things that I feel like we thought way farther into, be like, okay, we need this, this, and this.
Yeah.
We didn't need any of that.
Yeah.
It's easy to overthink when you're planning because you don't really know sometimes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even on the second trip, you may
Yeah.
find that you're also
Yeah.
overthinking or
Yeah.
pack too much stuff or don't pack the right stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was
So-
the thing is I feel like we had. It's honestly just like a lot of like odds and ends. Like it wasn't anything like big.
Well,
It was like,
our Nesso tent was a big.
that was a big thing that we bought that we didn't really use.
It's like a portable like tent you can just like take onto the beach, and so it's like a nice
Yeah.
little shade.
It's basically like a portable awning.
Yeah.
That you can just set it up anywhere.
Yeah.
And we saw somebody who had one like a couple of years ago traveling. Like, this is ingenious. We need this.
Oh, it's great for when you're on the beach all day and don't have a
And-
vehicle with you that has your awning, but
Because that was the thing. We bought it. We used it
twice.
and it was like it's big. It's like the size of like a duffel bag.
It's huge. I was
And
like,
we were
why did we bring
I'm
this?
glad we have this when we used it, but it was definitely like, we should probably use this because we brought this all the way here.
Yeah, we made ourselves
But like,
use it.
we had an awning on the truck, and 90% of the time you're right next to your vehicle or close to your vehicle if you're hanging out. So we're like, we can just set this up and that works.
Well, we also bought the Nesso tent and we didn't think we could install an awning onto the camp tech,
Yeah.
but you DIY'd
I
something to
made
make it
something
work.
work.
So I'm like, oh, well, why do we have this
Yeah,
Nesso
so we brought
tent
that
now?
just for fun.
Yeah.
And then, what was the other thing that we brought? I carried a lot of extra fluids. Like,
Yeah.
have enough to fix what you need, but like we had like multiple gallons of everything. 'Cause I
Well,
was
you
just-
bought a lot of transmission fluid after.
Yeah, after we broke the transmission, I was paranoid, so I just bought a lot of it,
Yeah.
and we didn't need any of it,
No.
but we were prepared for it.
Yeah, we
so
were.
that's what matters. So just kind of like little things, like even thinking, like we brought a lot more clothes than what we thought we needed.
Yeah, I wore like the same like 3 shirts,
Yeah,
but like just rotated through them.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it could have definitely simplified
Yeah.
a lot of our wardrobe
Yeah.
because you wear the same thing all the time.
Yeah. Then we could have brought proper layers for the cold because
Yeah.
we stupidly didn't bring like proper like warm down jackets.
I didn't bring a jacket at all.
You had your your Arc'teryx Atom
Yeah.
jacket, but that's really light. That's not very warm.
Because the thing people should know that are listening, there's a thing called seasons that exist in other parts of the world.
When it's summer in North America, it's winter in South America.
Yeah, so the equator days change. So we basically chased winter for the last year and a half.
Yeah.
And yeah, that wasn't super fun. We're just wearing a hoodie.
Yeah.
So definitely plan where you're going to be and when you're going to be there and the weather of what's going to happen.
We also didn't know when we left 10 years ago that there are high elevations in Mexico and in Guatemala.
It's like really cold all of a sudden.
We also didn't have puffies. We didn't really bring
No.
jackets. We were wearing hoodies all over the place.
Yeah.
And we were freezing. We didn't have proper gear.
Yeah.
Exactly the same reason as you guys.
Yeah.
Which seems ridiculous now looking back at my, decade.
Yeah.
We
A
didn't bring
decade
hiking
ago.
boots.
We brought
No.
Blundstones.
Because we were like, oh, how much will we use this?
We
A
won't
lot.
hike.
You should bring hiking boots.
We did a freaking volcano hike in Guatemala, and we did it in Blundstones, and our feet were very mad after.
I hiked the volcano barefoot because I was wearing Birkenstocks.
No, that was when we were walking down to Lake Quilatoa in Ecuador.
Don't do that. That sucks. Just like little things where you're like, okay, really think through everything that you need and the purpose why you need it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the big thing.
Yeah. You don't need a ton, but just make sure everything that you have has a purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's
Good
very
advice.
purpose-built.
Good
Yeah.
advice. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or everything should have multiple purposes.
Oh yeah, that too.
Think of everything like a Swiss Army knife. You want it to do like at least 2 to 12 things.
Yeah.
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 Awesome.
Yeah, I think those are the big ones.
Perfect.
Yeah.
One more question.
Okay.
And then we'll wrap it up and you guys can continue on your merry way.
Okay.
What are your favorite books?
Ooh.
Ooh. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
My favorite book is The Alchemist. So I read that. This is actually kind of funny the way that this worked is I have kind of like a theory if something gets brought up to me multiple times, and I usually do this series of 3. If it gets brought up by 3 times by 3 different people, whether it's people or if it comes up in a movie or whatever, I'm like, that's the universe or whatever telling me that I should look into this. Mm-hmm. And I remember the way this came up is Vanessa and I had gone traveling probably 5 years ago, and that book kept getting brought up to me. I was like, okay, I want to get it. And it was the day we were leaving, and I was like, crap, I don't have time to run to the bookstore, shoot, whatever. And I remember we were flying and we had a layover. And during our layover, I was like, I'm just going to go to the gift shop. Like, if they have the book there, I'll just buy it. And I was like, if it's under $20, I'll buy it. And it was funny because it was in the center of the stand, like at the very top of it, like it was like the key book that they were like showcasing. And it was 1975. So I was like, I guess I'm buying this. And I have read that book multiple times. It's by far my favorite book. And I'm awful at reading. And that's the only book I've ever actually been like fully engrossed in where I was like, I can't stop reading this. I need to just keep going. Mm-hmm. So that's my favorite book personally.
Yeah, I'm not a huge book reader, but I'll say a book that I've been really enjoying that I brought on our trip is it's called Why Has No One Told Me This Before, and it's like a self-help book, but it's just more of like the psychologist going over like common like mechanisms you can use in your life to help you if you're struggling with anxiety or whatever it is, and it's just really helpful, especially on this trip with like all the different stuff happening and everything constantly changing. Like you feel nervous, you feel stressed or whatever you're feeling, and it was just really nice having these tools at my hand that I could just like refer back to and just like be like, it's okay, we're gonna go through this and it'll be fine, kind of.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We
That's
listened to
great.
a few audiobooks.
Oh, we listened to a lot of audiobooks too. Yeah.
So that one was nice though because it was one of those things as well where it's like there's obviously the stresses of being on the road, stresses of like family at home, and basically like stresses of just like life in general, and be like, okay, this is like a lot of like time just to think and be like, okay, how can I help myself in these situations? So it's quite beneficial.
Great.
It's a big like self-growth time as well because obviously you're forcing yourself into an uncomfortable situation.
Oh yeah, you have to change when you're going through all this stuff.
You really start to learn, or in my opinion, you start to learn when you're outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And pretty much this entire trip is outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So it's huge for that sense. Is you can grow a lot as a person completely.
Yeah.
Which is very cool.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
The most recent thing that I've kind of experienced is more like overwhelm of seeing so many things, but not necessarily digesting or reflecting.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So having that time to really absorb
Yeah.
and reflect.
Yeah.
But it's easier said than done because you're just
Totally.
seeing things every single day,
Oh, yeah.
every single
Oh, yeah.
day, every single day, something new,
Oh,
something new.
Yeah.
When you're like researching the place you're going and you want to
Yeah.
learn about the history and you want to learn about the food and you want to talk to the people, and it's
Yeah.
actually it's a lot.
Yeah.
So much
A lot of
planning,
stuff.
and you have to like plan ahead, or else like you'll show up and be like, I have no idea what to do right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny because even like I was talking to a client the other day, and it was funny because like the conversation of like free diving got brought up, and I got into free diving, and I was like, oh yeah, this. And one of the guys I worked with was like, why haven't you told us that? I was like, I forgot about that till literally right now, because I was like, that's just, again, it's one moment out of an entire like section of like your life, and you're like, oh yeah.
Was that in the cenote in Mexico?
Yeah. Basically, I almost drowned in the cenote.
Yeah.
I don't listen to rules very well. Did something stupid, and okay, I'm just gonna explain the whole story.
I brought it up. So
There
you have to
was
now.
an underwater tunnel that basically went from one cenote down quite a ways, and then it was like underwater. You could go out, and there was another cenote on the other side
Yeah.
that we weren't allowed to go to.
You're curious though. You want to
But I
check
was
it
curious,
out.
so I was like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I want to go like just see like what it looks like inside the cave. So swam down, swam into it, and I was like, okay. And then I looked back, and I was way farther in than I thought I was in. So I was like, okay, well, I have to go to the other side. So just swam up to the other side, popped up. I was like, wait, I'm not supposed to be here. So I panicked and just like took a quick breath and went back down and swam down to go back to the other side. And then I was like, shoot, you didn't really take a breath when you were on the other side.
Oh no.
So it's pretty scary. I honestly, I definitely started to black out, and I just have to keep going and hopefully just make it to the surface.
Yeah.
Thankfully I did, and it was okay, but that was not a fun experience.
Don't recommend that.
Yeah, don't recommend that.
No.
Don't go swimming through caves. That's a very bad
Without
idea.
a guide, at least, if you're doing that.
Yeah, still don't do it. It's a very bad idea, but thankful it was okay, but it was a very close call.
Yeah.
Intense.
See,
Yeah.
really just thinking about it now because you just remembered it.
And that was a story I forgot about
Yep.
until like 2 days ago. Someone brought it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of input.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot going on.
Yeah, lots
Every
going
day.
Input.
Yeah.
Every day. Yeah. Speaking of input, so
Mhm.
if people want to find you guys online,
Yeah.
where can they find you?
So we're mostly on Instagram, and we have a YouTube channel, but it's just Destined for Wild. That's on all of our socials.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe that's us on everything. It's
Yeah.
just Desperate for a while.
Like, we have Facebook too, but we don't really post on it very much, but I would say Instagram and our YouTube channel. I'm trying to post more on YouTube, but it just like, it's so much content you have to
Yeah.
go through and everything. I'm trying to keep up on it, but
for sure. And
with us working now too, I'm like, oh my gosh,
And
I need
being on
to
the
edit.
road. Being on the road, when we left, like, man, we'll do a video every week. It'll be
Oh
awesome.
yeah, that lasted 1 week, I think.
And they were like, this is so much work to do a video a
Yeah,
week.
it definitely
It is
So,
a lot.
fell behind.
There's
Yeah,
videos coming that are backdated
a lot.
because it's a lot more work than people think.
Yeah, definitely.
So
yeah.
that's coming though.
But yeah,
Great.
stay tuned. There'll be more on YouTube coming.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see it.
Yes.
And if listeners want to check out your Land Cruiser,
Yes.
there's also an article on Expedition Portal, a feature interior
Yeah.
Yes.
article that outlines what kinds of things you guys have in your drawers and what you
Yeah.
brought and some gear and
Exactly.
gives
Yeah.
a little bit of more info on your
Yeah.
on your build.
So
So
that's what I will say as well. If anybody has like questions about it or questions about this trip or just anything in general, always feel free to message us on Instagram.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
I love talking about this stuff,
He does.
and again, have researched this way too much. So if anybody has questions, I'd love to help out where possible.
Yeah.
So
Pay
always
it
feel free to
forward.
reach out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
yeah, pay it forward.
Exactly. Help other people do what they do.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time to
Yeah.
come and chat with me on the Overland Journal podcast.
Yes.
And yeah, I look forward to seeing what's next for you guys.
Thank
very
you.
much
Thank
for
you for
having us.
inviting us. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Overland Journal podcast. We always appreciate you tuning in, and we will catch you next time.